Hi, my name's Erwin, and this is the Poetry Lighthouse podcast. In today's episode, I had the pleasure to interview poet and mental health advocate Ally Loyns, who will talk about her poetry collections, A Generation of Sunflowers and Bloom. Alright, so hello Ally, I'm so glad to meet you. It's such a pleasure to see you here at the Poetry Lighthouse, and welcome to the podcast. So today we're going to discuss some of your amazing poems from two of the poetry collections that you've written already. And I'm so eager to get to know your experience and how you started your journey with poetry. So could you please tell us how you started being interested in poetry? What drove you to this world?
For sure. So thank you so much for having me. I think it's quite an honor to say I'm the first Canadian gal on the Poetry Lighthouse. I take that with a lot of pride, so thank you very much. I am Ally Loyns. I'm a 23-year-old self-published author and borderline personality disorder advocate living in Winnipeg, Manitoba, Canada. So what started my writing journey? I was a storyteller from as young as 2, 3, 4. My grandmother raised me as my mom, and she tells me as an older woman now, I remember sitting down with you and you would dictate stories to me, and I would write them down and type them into Microsoft Word. So we've got stories that 2-year-old little girl me dictated to Nana. So that was kind of the beginnings of it. But as far as poetry goes, I really started writing when I was 14. 14, that's usually a very difficult year for people. We're starting high school, we're starting our teens, finding ourselves. It's a hard time. And I really leaned into my poetry, as 14 was a pretty difficult year for me. Of course, trying to find myself, struggling with my own mental health, and some family turmoil at the time. What really pushed me, though, was Rupi Kaur, internationally acclaimed poet, immigrant, moved to Toronto, Canada, so she's a Canadian poet, hold her very close to my heart. And her book, Milk and Honey, her first poetry collection that she self-published at 21, same age that I self-published my first collection. And she pulled me out of the dark night of the soul. I didn't have anybody. Family didn't know I was struggling at that point. Family was actually not my family, but a stepmother that was in my life scared me into wanting to not getting help. So it was a really, really difficult time, and I leaned into drawing, and I leaned into reading Rupi Kaur's Milk and Honey and writing my own stuff. That same year, my voice was taken from me through sexual abuse, unfortunately. And I didn't write for a long time. Being 23 now, I've done a lot of self-searching, a lot of therapy, a lot of writing since then. But I found my voice when I held my first publication, A Generation of Sunflowers, in my hand, March of 2021. I held this and I said, my voice has come back to me, and it's stronger than I ever even remembered, and we're never going to lose it again. So Rupi really instilled in me that it's okay to be vulnerable with your writing. People will love you perhaps more for being so open, raw, and genuine. And that's kind of the road I take with my writing. It's short, gut punchy, raw, genuine. You're getting the depths and the bowels of Ally Loyns here. Nothing is filtered, and what you see is what you get. And because of Rupi, she pulled that out of me, but I pulled it out of myself. But she was really a driving force for my writing career. But I should say, I had phenomenal English teachers at the high school I attended here in Manitoba, Glenlawn Collegiate. I'll shout it out. The writing was incredible. I was a part of AP English, grade 10, 11, and 12. It was just something that called to me. And I had a teacher specifically, Mrs. Jane, Vindra Jane, shout out to Miss Jane. She really pushed me to further my writing and just gave me that boost that, yeah, girl, you're good. You are good. And actually, my first published poem was in the school's literary arts magazine titled Ignite. So in 2017, I had my first poem published through the school's literary arts magazine, and it was titled Sapphires. And it was about a relationship I was in at the time, and honoring him and myself in our relationship. And it was a beautiful start. So yeah, that's my humble beginnings, I guess you could say.
Well, first of all, I would like to say Thank you so much for being so open. And also, I want to let you know that you are a very strong person, and life gives us a lot of challenges, and you were able to get through them quite exceptionally and in a very fantastic way. So, congratulations for that. I know it's not very easy, especially with the whole situation of mental health, which
Yeah.
is quite you know,
Relevant in my story.
exactly, and it gets to us every single day. It's not something that we can easily fix, and perhaps it's not probably able to be fixed, to be honest. I think
Mhm.
mental health is something that we all go through,
Yeah.
and especially given our experiences. And well, I think your resilience can be really shown through your pages, and through your emotion. Your emotions are so genuine, and I think that's something really brave to do. So first, I would like to congratulate you for that. It's such a wonderful thing, and you do it in such a way that's so beautifully and artistically
Thank you.
powerful. So before we get into the poems, because I'm just so excited to get into them, but
Yeah.
so you've been telling me all about your trajectory of how you got into poetry and what pushed you into it. Um, which is really nice, the fact that you had a lot of teachers who endorsed and supported you all along, which is fantastic. I really like the fact that teachers are able to have such a big impact on children,
Oh,
and
completely.
yes, and so it's wonderful that you started this self-discovery through poetry. I always think that poetry is such a therapeutic sort of it enables you to deal with your inner critique and your inner voice, and it helps a lot. It's therapy, yeah.
Hmm.
So do you remember what were so you said that you started your liking for poetry with the collection
Milk and Honey is the book.
Milk
Rupi
and
Kaur.
Honey. Yes, Milk and Honey.
Yes.
Yeah, I think I've read a few poems from that collection,
Oh
and I
yeah.
find it
Sure
really
you have.
nice as well.
Yeah.
Um, and so I'm quite interested in how you came about the whole idea of creating a generation of sunflowers, and
Yeah.
then we'll talk about the your second book. Um, but first, let's go for the first one. Can you tell us how you came up with the idea? Do you have any kind of creative process to write your poetry? Is there anything specific about the creation of your poems that
Yeah.
you would like to share with us?
Of course. So, actually, funnily enough, my grandfather, I'm a caregiver for him. He has cancer and dementia, but we've always been very close. He's like a father to me. As I said, my nana raised me, so did grandpa. He actually self published his own book on their divorce when he was 76 or 77, and the old bird's now 83. So I said to myself, hell, if grandpa can do it in his late 70s, this girl can do it. So I told Grandpa I wanted to do this, and he said, "Yep, I'm with you. I'll fund you all the way." I should give you background. He is an agricultural economics professor or an ex-professor, and he's very smart, all about academics. He's very well written, well spoken, and I think I picked that up because of him. So he gave me the idea to just give her, and he did show me kind of how it was formatted. It was just formatted in Microsoft Word. Nothing cool, nothing special. It was any Joe Blow can honestly create a manuscript and put it on Amazon or take it to a printing company. You can do it. It just takes a lot of time. So back to the question, Grandpa really inspired me and gave me that idea. My creative process, I don't have one. The thing is, my poetry acts as a therapeutic method for me to process. Um, we will be talking about a piece in Bloom called disassociation. And with borderline, that is one of the staple symptoms that we struggle with. We protect ourselves by not allowing things in, as I speak about in the poem, seeping deeper into my pores. And poetry is a way for me to take off that disassociative lens and say, yeah, I'm hurting right now. I'm hurting, and my void needs to speak. My poetry, I've found, is that portal for my void to speak. The void is big, and it usually is with people with borderline, unfortunately. But I'm learning how to fill that, and poetry fills it and gives it a way to speak. So as far as a creative process goes, whatever I'm feeling will come out. What I do, I'm not pen to paper, though I do love pen and paper. I actually type it out on my notes app. So as I've explained to some of my girlfriends and my editors, the words just flow right out of me, off my thumbs into my notes app. No process. Whatever's going to come out is going to come out. Now, I will say, since you've read it, you can understand that my poems are quite rigid in the fact that they're abstract, they're short, they're punchy. Um, I don't use fluff, it's not prose. And that, in a sense, can limit me to what I want to say. So I am learning to reach for other things that are therapeutic, like journaling.
Awesome. So really nice. I mean, yeah, I think for some for some poets they do have a very strategic special routine
Oh, yeah.
and kind of a way of doing it. But for all the poets, it's like how it you know when inspiration hits at very random times during the day and in very random places. And it's quite nice because you carry your phone everywhere, so you can just type it on your phone
Can
because
I give an example?
you don't want to lose the idea. So yeah.
Exactly. Do you mind if I give an example? This
Yeah,
might
yeah.
be a bit TMI, actually, but I really don't care. There is a piece in A Generation of Sunflowers, and it is titled The Aftermath of Coercion. This is a piece in my first publication. I wrote it while I was on the toilet. Yeah, I'm one of those people that bring my phone in with me. I don't know how long I'm gonna be in there, so I do bring my phone, and it flew off my fingers onto my notes app, and it is one of the most powerful pieces in the book. It is so just good. And yeah,
Yeah.
inspiration hits whenever.
Oh, I
This is
love
me.
that.
What you get with Ally, what you see is what you get. I'm very
Yeah, yeah.
unfiltered, raw, and I'm me.
Well, I just discovered a new place to write poetry. Very interesting. Um, awesome. So without further ado, we can move on to the actual book. So first we will discuss A Generation of Sunflowers, followed by
Yes.
Bloom, which is the newest one. So let's dive into A Generation of Sunflowers. And you picked three poems from both collection of poetry. So let's go and start with the first poem.
Sure.
If you want, you can give the context of the
I'd love
poem
to.
before or afterwards, or kind of like explain a little bit what you wanted the reader to, to experience in your poems.
Totally. Yeah, the
Um,
message behind it.
yes. So if you
Yeah,
want before or after, is as you want. Maybe
sure.
first read it and then we'll discuss about it.
Sure. Yeah, why not?
Awesome. All right.
So I'm going to start my recital with the very end piece of A Generation of Sunflowers, and it is titled A Generation of Sunflowers Will Emerge. Here we go. If you are lucky enough in this lifetime to meet the grandest of all mothers, cherish her. She is a flame that seems to ignite every part of me. A beautiful sunflower with petals of wisdom and empathy. A stem grounded by morals and traditions. If you can, pocket her shed petals. Use her wisdom and empathy that she has so graciously shed for you and wear them with dignity. When the sunflower wilts, regrow her bountiful stem within you. A generation of sunflowers will emerge.
Thank you so much. That was really powerful. I love the reading. I mean, it hits differently when you hear, the poetic voice behind it. And I think it's very powerful, the imagery here with the whole sunflower and kind of this hopeful message of, that new generations will emerge and life
Yeah,
goes on. It is really beautiful. I noticed as well that in your whole collection, um, there is some sort of progression that you start with some sort of ailings and how you deal
Yeah,
with them. And
yeah,
then you end up in a very kind of hopeful note.
yeah, yeah.
And I really like this ending because this is the last poem of your poetry collection. And actually, I tagged it because uh, I put
It's a
tabs
very
everywhere.
powerful piece.
It's such a very moving reading. So could you tell us a bit more about it?
I'll start off by saying it's the circle of life, this poem. My grandmother is my mother, and she is the grandest of all mothers. I love her so much. I love my Nana so much. And the best thing I could do to honor her was write a piece for her. She's raised me to be the sunflower I am, and I just love her so much. So I wrote that poem for her. She has Parkinson's, and the sunflower will wilt one day, but I'm going to regrow her bountiful stem within me, and the generation of sunflowers will emerge. So pieces for my Nana. I love her so much. Um, I think it's actually pretty obvious that it's about a grandmother. uh, but that's for Nana. That's Nana's piece. And that is a piece I read with such love and as a thanks for everything she's done for me and everything she continues to do. She's my teacher, she's my best friend, she's my grandmother, she's my mother, she's the light of my life. She's my rock. She's everything. I'm so thankful for her, and I'm just so grateful that I had the pleasure in this lifetime to know her, because a lot of people don't get to know their grandparents, and I'm very blessed that I get to know both. So this is for her.
That is wonderful. Thank you so much for sharing that. Actually, it's I did notice there's a lot of like you really managed to crystallize the beauty of your grandma and all the qualities that it's are very unique to people that are very close to us. And I think that's what makes this poem especially powerful because you can really feel the connection, the intimacy with this person.
Yeah.
And as you said in the poem, he said, "She's a flame that seems to ignite every part of me." So it's so beautiful poetically, but also the meaning of it, how all facets of your life are enhanced by a person who is always there for you. And it's just so beautiful. It's as beautiful as the flower that is mentioned here. And, we all have this kind of perception of flowers as something really beautiful. And
Yeah.
when you personify someone through a flower, and I think that's interesting because a sunflower for me it's someone who radiates kind of this luminosity and positivity.
Yes.
And I think that really shows through this poem.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I really, really love reciting that. And yes, I've got to read this piece to her. And yes, she's been at spoken word performances where I can give my all with this piece. And it's very hard not to get emotional during that piece because
Yeah,
she is getting older.
yeah.
But you know what? This piece has helped me and is helping me realize when she wilts, I'm going to carry everything with me and I'm going to go on and I'm going to start something beautiful. I mean, I already have, but we're going to keep going.
Yeah. No,
So,
and I
yeah.
think it's amazing. This reminds me of a lot of Shakespearean sonnets in which, he
Really?
explains that he kind of encapsulates or tries to crystallize a person through a poem, and that
Yeah.
this person will live forever because it
Yeah.
was written in a poem. So in a way, that's what you did here with your grandmother, and she's going to forever be remembered through your poetry. So
Yes.
for generations and generations, as it says here. So I think that's a really good takeaway for people that we really um, love, and it certainly it's such a roller coaster in life. We don't know when we're going to wake up, if we're going to wake up next day or not. There's so many things that could happen, and it's just about you know trying to express what you feel
Yeah.
as soon as you can, when you have the person in front of you.
Yeah.
And I think this is a wonderful poem, and I'm really glad that you got to read it to her in
Oh, yeah.
actual, there's nothing more powerful than receiving a poem
I
that
know.
someone wrote specifically for you, you know?
Oh,
So
completely agree. God, I would love someone to write poetry about me. I mean, I write about myself. Like, someone can write something about me. Come on, I invite it.
this was the first part of our interview with Ally Loyns. Please click on the next episode to listen to the second part. Thank you for listening to the Poetry Lighthouse. If you liked this episode, don't forget to share and subscribe to our podcast. You can also visit our website, thepoetrylighthouse.com, where you can read and submit your works of poetry and short stories. You can also follow us on YouTube, Facebook, and Instagram to keep updated. This is the end of the episode. Thanks again, and see you next time.